So as promised, we're going to talk about properties of logarithms. My previous video was the intro to logs or logarithms. This time you would need to know the properties as it pertains to the product, quotient, power, and inverse properties, which apply to both the exponents and the logarithms. We're going to focus mostly on the logarithms today. So if I am looking at my logarithms for specifically the product property, this is what my problem setup will typically look like minus, so like this side wouldn't be shown. You would have like two logs added together. And so if I were to condense that, that simply means that I'm going to rewrite it as what I just highlighted here. I'm going to rewrite it as one log, and then I'm going to take the value that's next to it, which is x times y. So that's what it means when I have an addition sign in between two logs. This is going to be helpful in a few minutes when we start working on some of the problems. Also, I'm focusing on the quotient rule for logarithms, which means that your problem will have a subtraction sign. So it's still set up the same way. The only difference is this time when you rewrite it or you condense it, instead of having two logs, you're going to condense it to become one log. And then you're going to take the value of the first one, which is your numerator, over the value of the second one, which is your denominator. You will also see the power rule or your exponent. That's going to be useful in either one alongside with your product or your quotient rule, which means that if I see, let's say a number, or in this case, it's showing a variable in front of my log, well, what's going to happen is this number that's in front of my log actually is the exponent for that value. So that's what is shown over on this side. So notice I am setting them equal to each other because that's the way you would rewrite it when you're condensing. When you're expanding, that means it's going to be shown in this form, and then, well, actually, when I'm expanding, it's going to be shown in this form. And so what you would want to do is rewrite it, take it apart. Expand means then however many items I have in my parentheses, that's how many logs I'm going to actually show when I expand it. So again, it will make more sense in a few minutes once we actually get to some problems. I would stop, pause this video, and take these notes if I were you. Okay. So something else that you want to actually know is called the change of base formula. I showed you in that other video how to use your calculator to change your base, which is to press the button math and then alpha and then math again. And that way you can change this log base. But let's say you don't have a calculator and you just needed to evaluate because you need to pay attention to the directions. Evaluate means that you're going to tell me what that log actually means as a number. So, or letters if I'm using variables. So if I'm using this example, the first one, I understand from my previous video that if there's not a log base shown, it's given to be 10. So if you don't understand that, well, that's called the common base. If you don't understand that, go back to my previous video where I talked about that. If we're using this change of base formula, the way this would be set up is, and let me just go ahead and rewrite that because then it will make more sense. The bigger number that's right next to your log, that's going to be your numerator. So when you rewrite this, it's going to look like log of 100 divided by log of whatever your base is here. And like I said, if the base isn't given, it's understood that it's 10. If I had a calculator, I could actually put that in and it will just tell me that this is the exact same answer as 2. The answer is 2. Well, how do I know that? Because it's telling me that 10 to the what power will give me 100. Well, I told you in the previous video, if you just count the zeros, then it will tell you. So 1, 2, that's where 2 is coming from. Again, all of this is in that previous intro video if you need to understand how you would rewrite it. But evaluate is just telling you if you're given the log, what is the number that represents that log? So here, again, if I'm asked to use my change of base formula, and I guess I should have just focused on that part first. Changing the base formula, again, what's the big number that's next to your log or variable goes on top. The base, think of basement, goes on bottom. So notice how I wrote the word log 2 times, but the one that went on top was the value, and then what went on bottom was the base. It will always work that way. And it's the same when you're using your numbers here. So for this next one, log of 64 over, and I'm still writing the word or abbreviation log, whatever my base is, 4. And again, what that really means is 4 to the what power will equal 64. That's all it means. And we should know, if we don't know, that the answer is 3. I'm going to show you in the calculator the next one. All right, so sometimes people will actually want to use, say for instance, any number that's divisible by the base and the value. They'll want to use that as your log base. So if I'm rewriting this, I could write that as log base 27 over log base 9. I could do that and pull out my calculator. Or I know that 27 and 9 are both divisible by 3. I could just go ahead and just put a 3 as my base. And then this way I don't need a calculator. I can just say 3 to what power is going to give me 9. And that's what's going to go on the bottom. Well, we should know 3 to the second power. And then 3 to what power is going to give me 27? Well, we should know 3 to the third power. But if we don't know that, so this is the answer here. And you want to leave it in fraction form. The calculator will probably give you a decimal. Let's see if I can pull up my calculator. All right, so using this calculator and using log, so I am going to press, and I'm using a change of base, so let me move this over so you can see that formula. I'm going to put it in just like this. I want to use the base 3. So in order to get to that, I have to go to math, alpha, math. I showed you in the previous video, and I can type in 3, move over, and type the 27. That's my value. Make sure that the end parenthesis is shown, and a fraction simply means to divide. And then again, I do math, alpha, math, change that base to a 3. I don't have to do this. I could just literally put in the log 27 over log 9. Either way, I just want to show you both ways. We'll show you that it works this way as well. So now, if I hit equal, I'm going to get a decimal, which is 1.5. I know that that's 3/2, but if you didn't know that, you can go to math, and that fraction just hit 1 will equal 2 times, and it'll tell you the fraction answer is 3/2, which is what we just said. All right, so that's how you evaluate using the change of base formula. Condense is what I was talking about earlier. If I remember my my properties, then I understand when I'm condensing, I am just taking all of these logs and I'm condensing it down to just one log. So I am going to have log base 9. I have a plus sign in both. Sometimes it's a plus and a minus, so pay attention to that. So I have 2 plus signs, which means that they're separated by 3 logs. 3 logs means I'm going to have 3 items that I'm multiplying. I have a U for my first log. I have a plus sign, which means I'm going to multiply it times this V. So U times V. And then I have another plus sign, which means I'm going to multiply that times the W. However, this W is not by itself. It has an exponent. That's that power property that we were talking about. So that exponent has to go after, it's going to have to go with the W only. So it's log base 9 of U times V times W to the 4th power. This is my answer in condensed form. So condensed form for the next one, I'm paying attention to the sign. I have a subtraction sign, which means I'm going to use the quotient property. If you took your notes, this will make more sense to you. I'm condensing, which means I'm only writing the log abbreviation one time, log base 9, and this time I am dividing. So I'm going to take my value x, and I notice I have an exponent. So whatever that number is in front of my log, that's an exponent. That's the power product. Divide this by my value of y, and that y also happens to have an exponent of 12. That's my answer for this problem when I condense it, when I put it in condensed form. So now expand means it's already in condensed form and I want to stretch it out. So I'm going to have several logs depending on how many terms I have inside of my parentheses. So I am going to take that first value, and I notice it has an exponent attached to it, which means that goes out front. So 4, and then I take the abbreviation log base 3 to the, that will, of W, sorry, not to the. And because I am multiplying, it's understood I'm multiplying, I am going to add it. And then I move on to the next one. Now this one, if you recall, you can rewrite a cube root as an exponent, which is u to the 1/3. So there's two ways that you can do this. You can either write 1/3 log base 3, because it's still going to be log base 3, you're just expanding, of what? Of that u, okay? And or you can write 4 log base 3 w, and then this time you can take the log base 3 of u and just divide it by that 3. It means the same thing. You will see it both ways. Okay, that's an or. Ugh, me and my handwriting. Okay, so now the next one, we're going to expand as well. And when I'm expanding this one, this is tricky as well. The entire value is raised to the 3rd power. So I have to keep that in mind. This is really, if I want to rewrite it, x to the 3rd power over y to the 9th power. Why? Because 3 times 3 is 9. Whenever you have exponents raised to a power, you have to multiply it. So that's what that really is. So what you want to do now is once you expand it, you want to take the 3 and put it out front of your log base 6. And of what? What were you working with? You were working with your x. This time I'm subtracting because it's the quotient rule. And I'm taking my 9, putting it out front, log base 6 of what value? Of my y. And that's my answer for expanding on this last one. So go back to your properties because that will be very helpful in making sure that you're expanding and condensing correctly.